knocked down the door, broke in, threw your furniture across the length of the street, beat up your mother, imprisoned your father, and told you that your house is now theirs, what would you...
What Mohammed El Kurd is talking about is how many Palestinians who live in East Jerusalem are being evicted from homes. But he's not telling you the whole story, because the fact is that before 1948, they were Jewish homes, and through a court process, it was proven in court that they were Jewish homes before 48. So therefore, the original Jewish owners either sell the home to another Jew, and within their own rights, they're allowed to evict whatever tenant or previous resident lived in there before, because it's not their property.
If you were told that for the rest of your life you were going to have to live in a cage, be sieged, what would you do if someone shot and killed your brother for simply being who they are?
The way Mohammed El Kurd talks, it sounds like he's living in North Korea and not Israel. I mean, the fact is, first of all, the army does not just kill women and children without any mercy or whatnot. Israel has very extreme open fire rules. And in any kind of war, even during the times of the Nazis, when the U.S. allies were bombing Germany, they were obviously German civilians that were caught in the crossfire and were also killed. In any war, there's civilian casualties. Israel is fighting terrorism, and there's obviously civilian casualties. But what he's trying to do is he's trying to lie and make it sound like they're living in like a super police state like North Korea. They have no rights and they're going through some sort of genocide. All this is ridiculous and a lie. This right here is a video of Hebron. And the Palestinian side, again, they have their own government. They have their own authority that rules over them. And they're able to do whatever they want within their area.
Waste an opportunity to intimidate us, to instill fear within us. There's this strong man image, not only to intimidate us, but to reassure the Israeli society, who frankly needs our suffering in order to feel safe, needs images of our misery, of our bloodied and bruised young people to feel safe. Growing up,
Israel does not indiscriminately kill people. It's because the Palestinian terrorists like these scumbags that came from Al-Fahim that shot up people in Hadera and murdered innocent civilians walking around that Israel has to act and defend itself. If Palestinians weren't doing these attacks and trying to murder us every day, they wouldn't have to be worried about anybody arresting them or going after their own terrorists.
in occupied Jerusalem, it feels like you have a police officer in your bed and a police officer on your couch and a police officer in your kitchen. There is so much surveillance of every aspect of your life, be it your social life, your political thought, your activities at school, your activities on the street. They are telling us that
The reason for all this security and stuff in Jerusalem is because every single day there are Palestinian terrorists trying to murder Jews and trying to murder police officers. Like in this video, for example, there's a terrorist with a knife who's trying to stab a police officer. So the police officer is with his own weapon pursuing the terrorist and ends up shooting him. Or like this video of a shootout in the Old City in Jerusalem between a terrorist and a police officer. Because of this, there's extreme security in order to protect the civilians and residents that live in Jerusalem, both Jews and non-Jews alike.
I know this firsthand because when I was 11 years old, a settler organization backed by the Israeli military broke into our house.
No, Mohammed, they didn't break in. It was a Jewish home before 1948. Your family came from Haifa as refugees into that home that did not belong to you from the get-go. There's been court proceedings since the 70s over this home. They lost the case, and then the people who owned the building eventually sold it because you guys didn't pay rent as tenants, and they wanted to evict you, and they had nothing else to do with it. So they sold the property to the Temple Mount Institute. No, it's called the Teret Kohanim, is an organization, and they are moving in because they own it and they bought the property, which you are not the owner of. It has nothing to do with people just kicking you out. You could go live anywhere else if you want. You're also a Jerusalem resident. If you want, you can also become a citizen. You don't have to live there, and if you do want to still live there, you should pay your rent. Mohammed El Kurd is nothing more but an anti-Semite who at a Georgetown speech, he said all the Jews should leave. He's a supporter of terrorism. He doesn't tell you the truth of what's happening. The reason why there's such security is because Palestinians, not him, but others that he support, go out to try to murder Jews all the time. And there are several terrorist threats against police officers and Jewish civilians throughout Jerusalem. That's why it's like that. Here is an example of where Mohammed El Kurd actually lives, and the real story of the property where he lives, explained by Mayor Eisenman, a tour guide.
About 150 years ago from local Arabs. After that, the Jewish community buys more property and they begin to build a neighborhood here. We have one neighborhood here, one neighborhood across the street, one neighborhood behind us, Nachalat Shimon. And we have several different neighborhoods, 3 different neighborhoods that are existing here up until the War of 1948. The War of 1948 arrives, and a little bit before the war, the British move everybody out.